So first day one of the 7 in 7 challenge. Kev, talk us through it. It was a cold start, lots of media attention at the start as well. But how did it go?
Yeah, it was great. I'm going to say it publicly, Phil, because I keep saying it to you, but you've done a wonderful job. And to have so many different camera crews and media outlets there this morning were fantastic for everybody. So I can only thank you. Really well organised. I think the weather was particularly kind with us, although it was a cold start. Sort of an hour in, as the sun started to come up, it put a bit of a smile on everybody's face. Knowing sort of the route that we ran this morning and knowing how quickly the weather can change, it really did look after us today. But it went well. I felt like we set off a bit quick, and I knew that were always a possibility. And I knew we'd be excited and wanted to get going, and it were cold. But thankfully, certainly when we hit the second half, going off sort of the splits and what times we were running, I was really comfortable that we could, knock it into cruise control and just steady away. And I still would have preferred, I know it might sound a bit daft, I still would have preferred it to have been a little bit slower, been a bit closer to that 350 mark rather than 340, because although that might sound a bit daft, normally people want to go quicker when the challenge is to try and get them all under 4. You're trying to preserve, and I think every minute will count, especially in those last few days. So it went as well as could be expected. Really pleased. I think you're never quite sure how day one's going to go, but I think the organisation we've had, the people involved have absolutely nailed their part in it. And as you saw yourself, Phil, this morning, when we actually got started, there was nothing else to worry about other than just to run for myself and Chris. And I think when you have that and you've got that support, and it's wonderful. The amount of people who must have turned the telly on this morning and seen some of the BBC stuff, the amount of horns that were beeped at us, the amount of people clapping as we went past, it was really, really nice, especially in my own town and my sort of the villages that I know really well and past my old school. It was lovely. So, yeah, big tick next to day one. I just hope that the rest of them is the same.
What was there anything that surprised you that you thought in the build up to it you hadn't really anticipated would be as big a challenge?
No, do you know what? There weren't any dark moments today, which is great. I think what really spurred me on throughout it was when you kept updating on sort of the fundraising tally and where we were at, and to see it suddenly jump from, I think late last night it was at 42k, to suddenly jump to, I mean, I'm not quite sure where we're at now, but it was in its late 80s, early 90s when we just finished, and it was just sort of bowled over. And as we were getting updates of that and it was ticking away, it was brilliant. The support out there, people have been so kind, and as we all know, it's for a wonderful cause, and obviously being linked with MNDA is really, really important for all of us. So to wear the vest, we're really proud to wear that vest today. We had some sponsors on there as well who have all played a wonderful part in this, and all offered services free of charge, all sponsored, just all been brilliant. The support's been great, so can't thank people enough.
That's a good point there, Kev. We'll bring in Ian Gardner from M&A. Ian, how much of an impact has it had on the charity, the work that Rob's done, in particular in profile and M&D?
It's been absolutely fantastic, and I'd just firstly like to take this opportunity to thank Rob and Lindsay for being so public in their journey with MND, but then really to extend my thanks to Leeds Rhinos, the foundation, to you, Phil, Kevin and Barry, and everybody in the rugby league community who's been inspired by Rob to actually support him and the family, and then to support the MND Association through all their fundraising efforts. It's generating a huge amount of awareness for us, which is vital, and then it's generating huge amounts of income, as you've just noted over just with your run this morning and from last night, Kevin. Those funds are now going to be put in towards our research program to understand more about the causes and the development of MND, but then importantly to try to develop effective treatments for people living with MND. And then ultimately that will drive us towards our vision, which is a world free from MND, which means a cure to this devastating disease. So a big thank you to everybody over this past year, to Rob, Lindsay. You know, it's been fantastic to meet you, Rob, and you know, you have been an inspiration to so many people, because you are living with MND, and you are showing lots of other individuals and families as they go on their journey with MND that they're not alone, and more people understand the needs and requirements of people with this disease and what is required so that we can beat it. So thank you.
And you mentioned research there, Ian, and I know at this particular time you've come together with other charities involved in research, MND, Doddy Weir's Foundation in particular, to ask for government to really back that call for research.
Yeah, absolutely. We've recently launched our United to End MND collaboration, which is a collaboration between the MND Association, MND Scotland, my name is Doddy Foundation, individuals living with MND, clinicians and researchers in industry. And it is to ask the government for £50 million over the next 5 years to fund a virtual research institute that will power those that research that I've just talked about, particularly translational research and clinical trials, to develop effective new drugs that are going to bring benefit to people living with MND. And
is there anything people can do to support that initiative?
Yeah, absolutely. The collaborative partnership, we are asking people to support us by being able to lobby their MPs to raise the awareness of MND and to push home to the government why it is important that MND should get this boost in research, to build upon all the good work that people like Rob, Kevin, Barrie, you at Leeds Rhinos are doing, and really make sure that the momentum in MND research not only continues but to grow until we can get those effective treatments that we also want.
And that's the fantastic work Ian and you guys are doing on the national level. And more closer to home, Jenn has become a part of the furniture at Headingley in the last year. Jenn Dodd, who's the regional fundraiser for Yorkshire, Humber and the North East. Jenn, how have you found the last year?
The support that we received over the last year has just been phenomenal. It's absolutely inspiring to see how people from smaller rugby teams, people who have no connection to the rugby family, have been inspired by what you're doing. And hopefully over the next few days, Kev, you'll get to meet some of these people who are taking on 7 marathons over December, or people who have decided to run 7K. There's been so many creative approaches to fundraising inspired by Rob. And
in terms of the MND community, particularly in our home here in West Yorkshire, have you spoke to people and they feel that they've got a voice now? Rob always talked about, you know, it's okay of him being a superstar and everyone talking about him, but it's the man down the street, the woman around the corner who nobody knows and maybe doesn't have that support. Do you feel they're getting their voice now?
Definitely. The people in West Yorkshire and the members of the West Yorkshire branch are absolutely delighted and really inspired, and with having Rob and his support, they don't feel alone in this, and it's actually encouraging them to get involved in more fundraising and raising more awareness. And sort of if people haven't fundraised before, we're seeing new people who are thinking, well, if Rob can do this, so can I, and they're getting involved with fundraisers, which is brilliant to see and be involved in supporting.
And presumably it's been a tough year for every charity, but you know, with COVID and everything else, and what you would have been planning for fundraising. So has this come as a boost?
It has. It's definitely come at a time when charities are struggling, and it's been great with the amount of support and the creative approaches that we're seeing to fundraising in this virtual time. We're seeing people running marathons around gardens, doing virtual marathons inspired by Kev, sort of solo around the local area, but then all sorts of things that are maybe indoors when people have been isolating, with virtual stair climbing, people making things to sell, calendars, all sorts. It's been really creative to see the virtual response, and obviously we really appreciate this vital fundraising in this difficult time.
And talking about creative, the young Burrow children, they've got creative recently and created Christmas cards that have been flying off the shelves.
Yes, they've made some wonderful Christmas cards, which sold out in under 36 hours, I believe. We are looking at whether we'll be able to get any more in time for Christmas, so do stay tuned. But if you did miss out, they are also available as an e-card. And thank you so much to the young Burrow children for those beautiful cards. I think they've definitely got everybody feeling festive, ready for Christmas in what's been a pretty miserable year with COVID. So thank you so much for that. I know that there's been so many comments of people who bought them who are absolutely delighted with their Christmas cards for this year.
That's fantastic to hear, Jen. And talking of getting ready for Christmas, a man who epitomised everything Christmas, Barrie McDermott. Just before you get booked in for your winter job, where you're not on Sky, in various department stores around the country. How's things, Baz?
Are you saying my stomach is the size of Father Christmas, Phil? It's a bit too delicate, that. I will say I am inspired by Kev today, and what I pledge to do is eat 7 marathons in 7 days. So a total of 49 marathons. I think I beat Kev on that respect, and I will eat them. I might struggle a little bit, but I think I've got the stamina to get through. So no, I'm good. Inspired by everything that's gone this morning. And like I've said, everywhere you look this morning, it's all about Rob. It's all about Rob's journey, and therefore that shines a light on MND and the MNDA that we're all here to support, celebrate, and get behind. And well done, Skipper, for trudging your way up and down those hills of Saddleworth. Bit slow, if you ask me. Come on, pull your finger out.
Thanks, Baz. Thank you. I wanted to ask you, is that an Australian shirt behind you? Do you know what? I know Rob is on here now, right? But Rob would be ready to give it you now if he saw that other shirt behind you.
It is, but it's Jonathan Thurston's match-playing shirt. We did a dinner back in, my word now, would it be February? And he signed it, donated it, and I've got I'm in my office here, and I've got about 5 or 6 items that people kindly are giving us to donate and add towards a collection that raises money. So, yeah, thanks for that, Kev. I hope you feel suitably bad now.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant, Baz. I'd like to see you in it, actually. Surprised you've not got it on. Can you still get in a medium?
See a slightly different shape.
Medium shirt. No, good on you. Good on you. It's, yeah, knowing your opinion on Australian Rugby League, Baz, I am really surprised that it is their pride of place in your office. But nevertheless, I'll let Rob hammer you later on text messages.
And Baz, Kev's started his challenge. You've had one challenge already. Tell us a bit about the 3 peaks. I think that was it as much a mental challenge as a physical one?
It's a while ago now, isn't it? Yeah, it's similar weather, although we had a little bit of drizzle, cold and everything. And something Kev said is really applicable for Kev, myself, JP, Keith, others who have done. I know Jason Netherton did something at weekend, an incredible challenge. We look for those things, we thrive on those things. So to put it alongside our great pal there and raise money for him and his charity and the direction that he wants some of the other funds to go to. The Rob's Fight Back Fund is something that's particularly close to his heart, but of course MND and MNDA deserve that financial support, and we'll always get it as long as we can. But yeah, thinking back, I think it was, my God, when was it? October now. Yeah, it was tough. It was fun. It was a mourn fest with me and Keith Senior having a competition of who had the worst back and the worst knees. But it's all good stuff. And as Kev has said many, many times, we'd walk up and down 3,000 times if we thought it would help Rob and give him a little bit of pleasure. So whatever we can do, we'll continue to do it for as long as we can.
And the other big project, of course, you're involved in now, officially endorsed by the Happy Mondays now, is Burrow 7, the racehorse club. A bit of fun for everyone to get involved in raising money for a great cause. Yeah.
Listen, I've done marathons. I don't like marathons. They're horrible. So I won't be joining in this one. But Burrow 7's been a real sort of surprise package for me, really. I had a business colleague that approached me with the idea. I didn't quite understand how it worked. We got Jenn involved and everybody that's connected with Rob and his trust just sit down and knocked together the details of it, and it's been a roaring success. We're about to give our first check and the first amount of money over, which is again in just over 3 weeks. Phenomenal. Burrow7.com if anybody wants to look and part with 59 quid and be part of something exciting. It's a bit different. You know, you're not contributing to watch somebody go through a mountain of pain over 7 days. You're contributing to something that you can, you know, take a real invested interest in it, and hopefully when it gets to race and go over the jumps, you can, you know, watch it either at the race course itself or on TV and have a couple of quid, and hopefully we'll all have a bit of fun, get some winnings, and toast Burrow 7's success.
Myself and Kev did have a bit of a joke. We suspected you might turn up on the back of Burrow 7 today. When a bit of media there, I thought Baz could turn up any minute here, just trotting around the corner.
I'm more likely to have somebody on my back. I'm more likely to be that Shire horse that's got somebody sleek and slender, some kind of jockey. Although I could get Rob, I could give him a backy, couldn't I? I could be the Shire horse. Rob could be the jockey. Although with my fumble hands, I might drop him. We've all gone through all our various stories of Rob and all our memories of practical jokes, things that he's done, things that tricks he's played on us. My favourite is Kylie's story, where he put the punch holes from the office, from Julie Bush's office down there at Kirkstall in the vent, and when Kylie turned his car on, all these things came out, and Kylie, I just love that. That's for me, that's the best one I've ever heard of. Keith, typical of Keith Senior, we've all been on a fairly respectful level. Keith talks about Rob Burrow weeing on the side of his leg in the shower. I think we've all had that little golden shower in our time in the changing room from Rob. But Rob, always fun, always great character, and still playing tricks now. Still, whenever you see him, he's got that little glint in his eye, and played a little prank on me with my phone only a couple of weeks ago, nearly sending an inappropriate message to my 21-year-old daughter when I kindly offered him my phone so he could type out what he was trying to communicate. So, yes, still there, still fun, and it's great being around him.
What's your earliest memory of him?
I first saw I first saw Rob round about the same time as Kev. Kev came in the late 90s, 99 season, and we always had a batch of young players training, as they do now, to integrate them in the system, and it's not quite that intimidating shock when they eventually make it to that top level. But I just saw this kid that was 4'10" tall, all teeth, all nose, all big ears, and just thought to him, well, he better be good. He better be really quick and really agile. And you know, he's 10 out of 10 on both of those. He's a player that changed the way. I think Jonesy said it in one of the things that has gone out recently, that he changed. He was a game changer. He'd come on, he'd change games halfway through. He never liked, a bit like me, never liked being on the bench. Many times we were on the bench together. But when he came into the game, we hadn't had those diminutive players in our sport. We were all getting a little bit bigger, all 5'10", 6 foot, 15, 16, 18 stone as it was in my case. But Rob, 10 stone wet through, just over 5 foot, just made fools out of us all. So my earliest memories of him were one, to try and protect him, but then when I'd been around him for a while, I wasn't worried about protecting him. I just wanted him by my side, and I wanted the ball in his hands at any point in the game, because I knew he had the chance to win it for us.
I will correct you there on his height, because he did it every season when I was doing the handbooks. He's 5'5.5".
He is,
and that half was very important.
5.5, then I'm 10 stone.
Yeah, on his tiptoes.
When you chatted to your sort of colleagues in the front row union at other teams, how delighted were you that Rob Burrow was on your team, not making a fool of you like he did them in so many occasions?
I only played against him once. England played Ireland. I'm not sure whether you might have been involved.
2005, the final.
Yes, I think you might have been involved, Phil. And,
I was, yes. Team manager, Baz.
We played at Warrington, did we?
Yeah.
And he played for England then, and I just kept saying to him in the scrum, don't you dare make a fool out of me, Rob, because I might not be able to catch you while you're running around, but while you're in the middle of these two block ends, I've got you where I want you and got you where I need you. But yeah, always a great player to have in your side. And some of the things that people have said about him, I'm sure they wouldn't have said to him back in the playing day, because they wouldn't have want him to know how much they feared him. But I always say in my commentating guys now, big fellas are frightened to death of small fellas, and Rob being the one that they would fear more than any.
Kev, when you think of Baz and Rob's relationship, they were like a double act at times, weren't they?
Yeah, they were brilliant. Real good fun, pair of them. But Baz, I reckon Baz would say we're bullied by Rob. He was always the butt of Rob's jokes, but you know, Baz being like he is, just took it ever so well and laughed at himself and got on with it. And when you were around those two, especially when they were both up for some banter, it were brilliant just to be in earshot of it, because they were just one-liners and back and forth, and that's what makes dressing rooms, them characters, them personalities, and you need people who are willing to laugh at themselves and take the mickey out of themselves. And Rob was always on the front foot with it. His banter was very sharp and quick, and like he was on his feet, he was with his tongue as well. So but it never overstepped the mark. It was always it was always given in the right way and always taken in the right way. And those two were really, really good fun to be around. They were. It was just, you know, you had this older, experienced guy who'd been there and done it, this young pup who were finding his way but broke his way in, and he was a superstar. And there was an absolute respect there, absolute. But when it were banter time, and it was great fun to be about. It was. That's what. Like I said, that's what dressing rooms are about, and that's what makes teams so special. When you've got personalities like that who absolutely have respect for each other, know where the line is. But actually, Baz did it for all of us. Keith, in many ways, did it. JP and Kylie came a little bit later. Just became, they looked after that younger crew. They looked after us. They looked after those sort of positions. When you need your front rowers to stand up, I know Keith weren't a front rower, but Keith put fear of God in a lot of people. But they sort to have those people in your team, you know, they looked after everybody. And Baz was more than happy to be the butt of the joke. But you knew at any minute that if anybody crossed the line with Rob or myself or a number of those younger players, that he'd absolutely step up and sort it out for us.
And that bond obviously still there, Baz, the way everyone's still coming together to support Rob and support MNDA and all the fundraising efforts that are going on. Absolutely.
And I'm biased. I think we're part of something special during that period of time, our great club. But I also think that the club continually shows how classy it is, continues to show how caring it is, not just for the players that are running around, but for those that you know did it for 1 year, 2 years, 10 years. And it's a special place to be part of the fabric of that club. And Rob will forever be part of the fabric of that club. And Kev and myself and Keith and JP and all the lads that we talk about, we very much value being part of that fabric that's entwined in the club and its history and its heritage. So the bond is there for everybody to see. But also I think the affection that Rob has from the game, from people who meet him, from people who come across him, they draw on that strength of his. They draw on the strength of that incredible family that he's got. You know, Lindsay and the kids keep him grounded. Lindsay is tougher than any front rower I ever played against, because how she's handling herself at the minute, getting up every day, making sure everybody's ready for the day. That includes, you know, everybody in the house. So when Rob and I were playing in the same team, we used to go out. We used to do visits to amateur clubs, and we used to get up, and one of the things, we'd talk for about 20 minutes, half an hour with different players, and Rob was always one that would put his hand up. And one of the questions I used to ask them would be, if you had one piece of advice for any young person, what would it be? And they all come up with different things. And then eventually I got to the point where I would say, if you had one piece of advice for young kids, what would it be? This is mine. It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. And I must have said it a few times, and it must have resonated with Rob and the rest of the lads there, because I very much see that now in what they do. Rob is a very important man within our sport. He's very important, you know, within our club. He's cherished within our club. But everywhere he goes, he's nice, and he's nice to people. People feel that. People know that that warmth is genuine, and they give it back to him in bucket loads.
Yeah, and just bringing in Ian from MNDA. A year ago, Ian, I don't know what your knowledge would have been of rugby league or Leeds Rhinos, but what's it been like from someone coming from the outside, looking in on our sport and seeing that the affection fans across the sport have got for one of our own?
The sense of community, the team is just comes across in every single interaction I've had over the last year, and you know the admiration and inspiration that people look towards Rob, is just a real reflection of that huge community spirit that there is at Leeds Rhinos and across the whole rugby league community, and that is absolutely clear in the way that so many supporters of rugby league have come to support Rob and the fight against MND this last year. It has been absolutely incredible. It has made a huge difference this year of all years with the pandemic, and it's been a real important boost to us, to our other fundraisers, and I say to everybody, other people who are living with MND who now know that what they are going through is understood by more people in the general public, so that what they need is higher up the agenda. That's why we're now approaching the government. That's why we're continuing to fundraise, and that's why collectively we will beat MND.
I don't know, Jen, that a lot of the local fundraisers are Rhinos fans as well, so it's been manna from heaven for those guys.
Yes, there's been lots of Rhinos fans, but fans of all teams. And what's also nice is to hear that lots of the people who are supporting us have a story about Rob. Rob might have helped at a charity game. Rob might have coached them. There's so many stories. And so it's really wonderful to hear the connection and why people want to get involved, because it isn't just because they've seen Rob on the TV. There's a story of what Rob's done for them and why they want to get involved, which is really great to keep hearing.
Yeah, it's fantastic to hear, Jen. We're going to be doing these every day while Kev's doing his 7 in 7 challenge. If you want to send us in any questions for Kev, we can throw a few questions at Kev. You all right with that, Kev? Oh, he's fallen for the old Zoom.
Sorry, I muted it. Yeah, of course. Anything you want.
So if you use the hashtag run Kevin run, and we'll check those out after each day. It could be about marathon running, your preparations, how's things going. It could be about Rob, could be about rugby league, it could be about anything. Oldham, the delights of Oldham that I'm now, or Saddleworth as I'm now discovering. More coffee shops per acre than anywhere else in the country.
You're not pronouncing it right, Phil.
Sorry.
Do you want me to teach you how to
phonetically? Yes, yeah.
God's back garden. We know it's God's back garden because he's always watering his plants.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll do that, and we've got some special guests lined up to come on and to chat with Kevin and give their stories about Rob as well, and how MND's affected their lives as well. So that'd be great. Please do keep giving. As Kev mentioned there, it was great for the guys who are out on the road today to hear that money going up and the totals going up. And if we can do that every day, there are going to be some tough times in the days ahead, no doubt about that. And by you doing that and getting involved, you can have a direct impact and helping the guys achieve what is going to be a huge challenge this week of 7 marathons in 7 days. Day one done. We'll leave the last word with you, Kev. Looking forward to day 2.
Yes, very much so. Whilst Jen and Ian are on as well, just want to thank you for your support. Jen, in particular, the snoods you sent through were an absolute godsend this morning, so thank you. And then I know Rob's listening, and I don't know whether Lindsay's there, but the message you sent through last night were wonderful. It absolutely made sure we didn't have any dark times today, and it was really nice to run and know that those tallies were ticking over. And like I've said right at the start, thanks to everybody. We'll give it our best shot this week, and hopefully, Rob, we'll do you proud, pal.